We all experience challenging and difficult situations in life. In the face of these complexities, it is not always clear how to respond, what to do, or what to avoid. It's easy to get stuck in these moments and stop moving forward in life. Wholeness with Naomi is a program that explores our experiences with such encounters and provides tools and strategies that can enable anyone facing these hardships to continue walking their path in life. We can't wait to meet you on this journey. Tune in, your life is about to change for the better.
Welcome to our program, Wholeness with Naomi, where we talk about difficult and sometimes different situations that we find ourselves in. More importantly, we talk about some of the tools that you can use as you navigate in these difficult and different parts. Today we have a different topic. We're talking about raising children with intention, raising children with purpose and in a loving way, and being more intentional as you do that. As parents, caregivers, there are so many challenges that we face and so many pressures. The need to provide, the need to ensure that children are provided for all the things that they require. But in that, there's what is called intentional parenting. Joining us on the program today is Ms. Nyasha Magumise, who is a family therapist, and she's going to take us through the subject of intentional parenting. Welcome to the show, Ms. Nyasha. Yes, we're just getting right into it, Ms. Nyasha. You know, parenting has a lot of facets to it. As a parent or a caregiver, one of your roles is to steward, to train your child. What is intentional parenting in light of that?
Parenting. I wish we could enter this world and into the world of parenting with a manual, but unfortunately...
I wish for that as well as a parent.
Yes, unfortunately we enter without a manual, without a degree, without a qualification. However, intentional parenting is parenting with a purpose, meaningful parenting, training your child in a way that will result in the person that you want them to be in the future. The word of God says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. I think as parents, we need to realize that it is a job that God has given us, and perfection is not expected. All is needed is connection with our children.
You're bringing a new word, which is connection with your child. I want you just to also just dig a little bit deeper on that. What does it look like? How do you connect with your child?
That's a very good question. Connecting with your child means you're having a relationship with your child. It means from day one, from the day that they're born. It's very easy when they're babies, you know, you cuddle, you hold your baby, you breastfeed your baby. They become toddlers, they start talking. That is how we connect with our children. We talk to them, we spend time with them. I deal a lot with teenagers, and I find that teenagers need to be seen. And I think all children need to be seen. And when we give them an opportunity to share who they are, to talk to us, to spend time with us, we connect. Yeah.
What does it look like when we are talking about intentional parenting? Is it something more or extra that you need to do as a parent?
Okay, so for example, using what you've just said, you get home and your child is waiting, or maybe you get home first and then they come in. You intentionally stop and give them your attention. A lot of the times our children will come back from school and, hi mom, and you're on your phone and you don't even stop to say, you know, to look up and to say hello. So first of all, give them absolute 100% attention. Then talk. How are you? Be interested in their day. Be interested in what they were up to. What was the highlight of today? What was the low light? What's going on with friends at school? What did you learn? It's not how was school. Try and use open-ended questions so that they can actually open up and tell you exactly what was going on. That brings a connection, that brings a bond. It is also maybe doing their homework together. It's not just allowing him to go to his room or her room and just saying, do what you're supposed to do. It's you actually saying, I'm interested, show interest in your child. Sometimes it's hard. That's the reality, because you are also coming from work, you are tired, you have your own pressures.
There's so many responsibilities as well.
A lot of responsibilities, but it's choosing. That's where the intentional comes in. It's choosing to get home in a good mood, in a good space. Maybe sometimes it means when you get to the gate, stop and pause and say, okay, I am no longer in work mode. I am no longer in pressure mode. I am going home. I'm the one who carries the atmosphere in the home. And as you enter positively.
Okay.
It takes a lot of emotional maturity and intelligence, but it's something that I think we can all do as parents. So once you get into the house, then, as I said, you give them absolute attention, even if it's just for 30 minutes.
Okay.
And if your day is pressurized, even 10 minutes is enough to just say, my child, you're here, I see you.
Okay.
And then carry on with whatever it is that you need to carry on. Different families have different routines at home. Yeah.
And what's really striking about what Ms. Nyasha is saying to your child, I see you. What does that look like for you as a parent, to actually see your child? There are a lot of pressures that are around us. Many times we are coming from our places of work and we are tired. There's so much pressure that's coming from there as well. But your journey as a parent starts when you're intentional about, I'm a parent. How do I show up for my parent? The moment you arrive at the gate, to process and deal with yourself, even before you arrive at the gate, you are better as a parent when you take care of yourself first, before you are able to take care of your own children. So it is quite important that, you practice things like self-care for yourself, emotional maturity, like what Ms. Nyash was just sharing about, such that when you present, when you come into the home, there are so many pressures that, that also come with that as well. You're in a place, in a position to be able to provide that safe space for your children where they can feel seen and you're able to parent your children well. Viewers, let's take a short break to join me in the next segment. Thank you. Welcome back to our program, Wholeness with Naomi. Before we went on a short break, Ms. Nyasha was sharing with us how to make your children feel seen as part of intentional parenting. I'm interested in knowing if, for example, I'm a parent and I'm not doing all those things that you're sharing, Ms. Nyasha, what sort of challenges will my family or my children have? Are there any?
Yes, there will be challenges. Children, when they're not seen, they then try to be seen in other ways. So their behavior tends to become negative. In schools, we then experience naughty children wanting attention. I think, as you all know, as humans, we all need some level of attention. For children, it's a bit more. So when you don't see your child, when you don't parent intentionally, when you are not at home, when you are not spending time with them, they then crave for it and look for it in bad behavior. So that may sometimes look like moods. Sometimes it may look like vaping and getting into substance abuse. It may look like disrespecting teachers, disruption in class. This is because they're not getting the attention that they're supposed to be getting at home.
Okay.
Yes.
So in other words, that need that a child has doesn't go away. It just gets channeled into other places.
Exactly.
And that creates a bigger problem.
A bigger problem.
Starting from the family front, mom, parent, or the guardian is not there. Maybe you're not there for different reasons because you actually are working to provide for the child. But there are also needs that the child has. And if those needs are not met, the child starts acting up in the ways that you're sharing.
Exactly. Yeah. And it is a bit sad because sometimes even in my line of work, I will be dealing with a child that is difficult. But I know that it's not the child just deciding to be difficult. I do know that it's coming from home or coming from other pressures that they're experiencing. And that's their only way of responding to whatever it is that's happening in their lives. So it is connected.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in other words, they find coping mechanisms.
Exactly. Those
In
are
places where they feel accepted. And this is something which is quite important, especially looking at today's world, where we're talking about drug and substance abuse, we're talking about vaping, we're talking about even the life of that particular child. As we mentioned, the role of a parent is to guide, to train, and to steward. But how do you guide your child through there? Maybe it's something that I've also just noticed, that my child right now is struggling. And I also have pressures around me as a parent. Is there a way out? Because this is something that most parents are actually facing. How do I balance it out? Is there a way out?
There is a way out.
Okay.
So first of all, you cannot fill from an empty cup. I think you alluded to it earlier. As a parent, I believe that you should also practice self-care. If you need therapy, I'll give an example. If you've gone through a divorce, and obviously that is a painful thing to go through and unpleasant thing to go through, please go for therapy. Find help to deal with whatever healing you need to deal with, whatever pain, because we then impart that to our children. Once you have taken care of yourself, then you can now fill into your child. Then you now have space in your heart to actually see what they're going through. Sometimes we are not failing in our parenting intentionally or because we want to. We are failing because we actually can't. And that's maybe because we just haven't dealt with our own issues. So I like to challenge parents and myself. Where are you at in your own healing journey? Where are you at in your own space? Are you filled with love and good things? Or there's a lot of pain that is filling you up? That will affect how you parent your children. Once you've done that, then you are now needing to cultivate a relationship with your child. That means spending time. Sometimes it means starting by apologizing. Maybe you know that there are certain things that happened in the past that really hurt your child. Or maybe you can even also go back and ask your child, how do we repair our relationship? Repair the relationship. Listen to your child when they speak. It's always difficult to hear your child tell you things that are negative, but sometimes that feedback is actually what repairs the relationship, what creates a bond that is needed. Once you've done that, then you start listening to your child. So how can I help you? Okay. That is a very good question to ask a child. How do I support you? What is it that you're going through?
That's important. How do I support you? Yes. And the moment you look at it in that way, you now start finding solutions. But how easy is it for an African parent to apologize, Ms. Nasha?
It is not easy. You're very right. It is not easy, but I always believe we can learn. I always want to share a story of how when I was growing up, my father used to struggle to hug me. And I had to teach him to hug me. Really? Initially, nice. I was very upset with him and thought, my father doesn't hug me. But I then realized that, no, it's because he was never hugged. In our culture, you know, it's not as easy to hug. And after that, we hug each other all the time now. And it's very normal for him.
So it's learning the journey as a parent.
Yes.
Admitting that in this particular area, I think I need help. And what you raised is also something which is quite important to us. You know, pain or things that we go through in life that hurt us, that disappoint us, sometimes they just don't go away on their own. They need to actually work at it. As a parent, look at yourself. Where am I in my own relationship with myself as a person? Because you only can pour from a cup that is full. From that cup, that is what you're only able to fill to your own child. What is in that cup? Is it joy? Is it happiness? Is it pain, resentment, or bitterness? Make an assessment of yourself. If there are places or areas that you need to work on, Ms. Nyasha said it's possible. It's possible. And some of the things that you need to learn, you can always learn at any age. And one of them includes learning to apologize to your child. Connection starts that moment that you say, how can I help you? How can I mend? How can we mend this relationship going forward? And where we are true and honest with each other in the family, that is where growth starts. That is where healing starts. Especially if you are coming from a place where the child is already moved off and they are seeking for the affection, the attention, the love from other places. How can we start now? How can we work on the journey together? Viewers, let's take a short break to join me in the next segment. Thank you. Welcome back, viewers, to our program, Wholeness with Naomi. We are talking today about the subject of intentional parenting. I'm interested in finding out, Ms. Nyasha, how do you balance between discipline and loving your child? Sometimes there's a thin line where you actually need to stand and say, this will not allow in this house. But doing that in a loving manner, that also doesn't push your child away. How do you put the balance?
I think this begins with the connection with your child. Okay. Yes, you need to start by having a good relationship with your child. What I was saying earlier, that your child feels seen, you have a good relationship with them. They then know that when mom is in discipline mode, mom is in discipline mode. Okay. And when mom is in friend mode, mom is in friend mode. You cannot always be a friend to your child. Children need boundaries. And when you give them those boundaries, they thrive better. It's basically where as a parent or as parents, you instill values initially in your children. Values are very important. Your child should be able to say to their friend, in our house, in our family, this is our value system. So from a young age, when you tell your child that this is how we behave in our home, this is what we do in our home, you're already instilling discipline. If you get home from school, you sit by the table, maybe after an hour of rest or so, this is what we do in our home. You sit and you study. You are instilling discipline, but at the same time, it is not received with rebellion, because there is a relationship and there's an understanding. It also helps to explain certain things that you're teaching to your children. I found that children rebel or don't take discipline well when they don't understand why.
The why.
Yes, they don't
Why
understand
am I
the
doing
why.
something?
Why am I doing something? Why is it important? But if from day one it is told to them that this is how we do things, if it's a Christian family, the Word of God says this, and this is what we subscribe to. As long as they understand what's going on, it is easier for them to actually follow whatever it is that you'll be instructing them in terms of discipline.
Okay.
We also need to be careful of being too strict. Like you're saying, it's a balance. I think in the olden days, I think our parents, or even before our parents, you know, the people were quite strict.
Very,
very
and the
strict.
belt was something, or the
Yes.
belt, emugoti, whatever, was not too far away from their hands.
Exactly, yeah. And it was as if children are seen and not heard, you know. Children did not have a voice. Not to say that you should always hear what they're saying. Yes, you should hear them, but the balance comes in not sparing the rod, but also having that relationship where you can also try and understand where they are coming from.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I've seen like a few times, not many, you know, where people are using the rod, but they're using the rod in a very unpleasant way, where a child sometimes was tied up and would beat. Is that something which is good for the child?
No, it is not good. I think how you discipline, especially using the rod, is very important.
So your intention.
Your intention. And also the state you are in when you are disciplining.
Okay.
I've always said that you cannot discipline when you're angry. Cool down. Okay, if your child has made you upset, cool down. You don't have to discipline them immediately, and then think through how you want to discipline after, because I know a number of people then regret when they realize that they used full force in a situation where they maybe should not have used full force, or maybe they should have decided to speak to the child instead of use the rod on the child. Yeah.
I think that is really quite profound. And even viewers, as you're watching, when you're disciplining your child, especially when we're using the rod, what state are you in? Look at yourself, look at what's within you. Are you angry in that moment? Maybe your child has done something that's really, really making you quite angry. That is not the best time for you to discipline the child. The purpose, the intention of discipline is to instill good behavior. And what you're basically doing in that moment is that you're channeling the anger out from yourself onto the child. And the effect is that it's more harmful to your child. It does not produce any good. As Ms. Nyasha was sharing, allow yourself to cool down as a parent. Allow yourself to cool down and disciplining in a way that produces good behavior in your child, and also coming from a place of a relationship. Thank you for that, Ms. Nyasha.
It is important for you to be aware of your emotions as a parent and to self-regulate. You need to be able to ask yourself, am I in a good place as I enter the home? Because sometimes the child hasn't really done anything wrong, or if whatever they've done, it doesn't need the discipline you're about to instill. But maybe it's because you've been triggered. Maybe it's because you're coming from a situation at work where things didn't go well for you, okay? Or maybe there's a marital issue in the home and you're now taking out that anger onto the child. So self-awareness is very, very, very important as a parent. And it takes a lot to learn, but you can learn how to be self-aware.
Okay. Whilst we have that, Ms. Nyasha, what are some of the ways that you can do to be aware or to regulate yourself, rather to regulate yourself as a parent? I'm coming from work, I'm in a bad space, you know, I'm tired, I didn't manage to fulfill the task I was supposed to, my boss was shouting at me. How do I regulate myself as a parent? Are there some things that I can do that can help me in regulating myself?
Yes, so you could, as you arrive home, and maybe your children will know it's a routine that you have. When you get into your home, you drive in, you sit in the car, and you just take maybe 10 minutes to just breathe.
Okay.
Breathing exercises help. I breathe a lot, deep breaths that regulates your nervous system. After doing that, if you're a Christian, you could pray and just ask God to help you deal with whatever it is that has been happening. And as you enter into the home, you bring in a good atmosphere to the home. You could also talk to someone.
Okay.
Yes, you could pick up the phone and call your friend and just say, you know what, I've had a terrible day. Release whatever it is that you've been going through on that particular day and go into the home with a better mood.
Okay. Release what's been happening into the day. What works for you, Shiwas? I do like the aspect of talking to someone, and we're talking about the aspect of a community where, we are saying you don't live in isolation. There could be a friend close by, or even a relative that you reach out and that you go and say, I'm not in a good space, and you talk things out. That is something that I do feel that we need to do so much more. And then whilst we're talking about the aspect of community, what role do they play in raising your children?
Oh, I love that. It takes a village to raise our children. I think as parents, we need to do better in that aspect. In the past, or in villages, for example, actual villages in the rural areas, it was easier. Now I find that as parents, we are more secluded, and yet we need all of us to raise our children. So for example, your daughter is your daughter. However, she has an aunt who's your sister. She has a teacher at school. She has a youth leader at church. Everyone is part of, all those people are part of the community that can actually help to raise your child. So when a youth leader, for example, says, I've noticed this about your child, she has a short temper, allow that feedback instead of being defensive and saying you don't know my child, etc. Or a teacher or a counselor happens to mention something as well, allow that feedback. I really believe that we do raise our children together and not just by ourselves.
Okay. I think it's also quite important, especially in today's world where, many times people are living their own lives and they're just managing their own families. And sometimes there's not enough time to be able to go over and say, this is my tete, this is my brother's children. I need to be looking out for them. But just that intentional part, as you're mentioning, a child is not raised by just the family unit, but they're raised in a community. And sometimes the feedback that we receive, why is it that we are usually resistant and we take a stance to defend our child when something is said? Why do we do that?
We take it personally. We think it's a reflection on us and our bad parenting, and yet it is not.
Okay. It's about the child.
It's about the child.
And when someone is highlighting something to it, means let's work at it together.
Exactly.
Let's look at this. It's not an attack on you as a person. Thank you so much for that, Ms. Nyash. As we are wrapping the subject of intentional parenting, Ms. Nyash, just take us through some of the important points that we need to take note of.
So number one, get to know your child. Spend time with them. Time is very important. Make them feel seen. Spend time with them. Number two, instill values. They struggle with identity, and identity comes from values. They are often asking the question, who am I? Whose am I? And it is your duty as a parent to answer that question or help them answer that question. And we often start that by instilling the values in the family, instilling the values that you would like them to subscribe to. Number three, love them. How does this look? There's a book called The 5 Love Languages, and I'm sure...
I'm actually reading about the 5 love languages for children right now. Yes.
Love them. There's a book called The 5 Love Languages. Okay. The 5 languages are, number one, words of affirmation. Affirm your children. Encourage them whenever they are doing something right. Notice it. Say something. Sometimes we tend to criticize more than we actually affirm.
That's true.
Yeah. Number two, acts of service. Sometimes maybe your child is cleaning the room. You've asked them to clean up their toys. Go and help them. That's, basically what an act of service is helping your child with whatever things that they need help with. Touch. Some children love to be hugged. They love to be touched.
Some children are huggers.
Yes, they're huggers. So some children receive love more through that. And then the next one is quality time. Okay, some children don't mind not spending too much time with their parents, but for some it's that's their love language. Okay, that's how they feel loved. Spend time, go on a date with your child. If it's a teenage boy, mom, take your son on a date and talk and get to know them better with the use of quality time.
It's also important to know that it doesn't need to be fancy. To that child whose love language is quality time, what's important is I'm spending time
Yes,
with you
yes.
uninterrupted by anything.
Yes, yes. So like sometimes it's homework. They're sitting there and they're writing their homework. You're very right. And you're just sitting with them as they write their homework. That speaks volumes to that type of child. And the fifth one is gifts. So some people thrive on gifts. Personally, it's my love language. Okay, buy them a little gift just to say, well done, just to say thank you for doing A, B, C, and D. And sometimes it's not necessarily like you're saying a huge gesture. It can just be writing a note and putting a little sweet and giving it to them. That can brighten up their day. So how do you know your child's love language? You have to know them, get to know them, observe them, read about it, and then love them in that way. And also to remember that children are individuals.
That's true.
So you may have 4 children, they're all very different with different talents, with different ways of feeling loved. So that's where I reiterate again that get to know your children.
You've heard it, viewers. Parenting does not need perfection, but it does require connection. Do join me in the next episode, but in the meantime, let's continue in wholeness. Thank you.